You are listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Heather Dyer and Aaron Walker. To find our complete catalog of episodes, check out any of your favorite podcast players.
Or our website, threekitchenspodcast.com. All right, everybody. Welcome to Three Kitchens Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Heather, and there's Aaron.
Hello!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
And for those who celebrate, Happy Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year.
Oh yeah, that's coming right up.
And what you're getting today is a little chat about Chinese hot pot. Because I made it over the holidays, but also because Chinese New Year is coming up. And we thought, why not?
And I have not ever had Chinese hot pot.
You haven't eaten it out at a restaurant?
No.
Okay.
I am here to be the one who describes it to anyone else who's also in my shoes. I've decided it's like fondue.
It is similar in concept, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let me tell you about Chinese hot pot.
Okay.
All right. So you have a big pot with broth in the middle of your table. And this is why you're thinking fondue, because you're cooking at the table, right?
Okay.
Then you have some sort of heating element under it to keep it boiling because you're cooking in it. And then you have various raw ingredients that you're going to cook in your broth. And then typically you also have some type of sauce for each diner. When you take it out of the broth, you're going to put it in your sauce, and that's how you're going to eat all the yummy things. So if we talk about the pot, there are apparently Chinese hot pots, like an electric pot that you can buy. You could use like a butane, like a burner. I wouldn't do an open flame, but you know those like, do you have one of those, or was it Sarah who had one of those? It's like a burner that you could put on the table, but it's like portable. You could take it to the park, you could take it.
Oh, like a Korean stove.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's a butane stove. It is open flame though.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I mean, if you're comfortable with an open flame at your table, you could do.
Yeah.
Or you could have, a friend of mine said she uses an electric frying pan, like a deep electric fry pan.
Right, yeah.
Or an electric wok.
Okay.
I didn't have any of those things, but I do happen to have a hot plate, an electric hot plate, which is, the coil burners on the plate, and you plug it in. And then I just run an extension cord, and I sit next to where the cord goes. I'm like, you children are over there. It's just something to be aware of.
The scariest part of this is that there's a cord running from the table to the wall while you're doing it. I think I'd be more comfortable with the open flame.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, you totally could.
Okay.
You want to keep it boiling, obviously, because you're cooking in it. And especially if you want to cook meat, you want to make sure it's boiling, right?
Question one already.
Yes.
Does that mean you have to continually top up your broth because it's boiling and evaporating, or are you?
So I have made this twice. I've also eaten it out at a restaurant. And only the second time that I made it, just like last week, did I top up with water.
Okay.
At the restaurant, they don't top up the broth.
Okay.
I think it's because you're not sitting there for...
Okay, yeah.
I guess it would depend how long you're going to have your dinner last. If you're really taking your time and you're sitting there for a long time and you're, taking breaks between cooking and eating, you might need to be topping it up.
Okay.
Not exactly sure. Ooh, and also some of the hot pots have a divider in the middle of the pot, so you can have two types of broth. Maybe one day I'll invest.
Okay.
those because they look so cool. They have like a little divider in the middle, so you can have spicy broth and like non-spicy or.
Oh, I like this.
I know, I love that idea. Okay, so what you're doing is when you put it in, you're cooking it just cooked. Obviously, you're not just leaving it in there to turn
This
to.
isn't a 45-minute soup boil.
No, you're not making soup. I think that's one of the main things that I had to kind of learn here is you're not making soup. You're using the broth to cook a very thin slice of meat, say. Then you take it out and you eat it. And then you put something else in and you cook it and you take it out and you eat it. You're not filling it with veggies and meat and then pulling it all back out. Each person is sort of like, which is, I guess, why it's like a leisurely sort of meal. It does take some time. You're not like soup, you cook it all at once and then you eat it all at once, right? This is different. Right. Okay. So what's in the broth? There are, I think, probably as many different types of broth as there are people eating hot pot.
Nice.
So make it what you want it to be. But in China, they tend to vary depending on the region, of course. Some places might be more seafood flavored, maybe mushroom, maybe tomato, spicy Szechuan broth.
Ooh, yeah.
And Northern Chinese style hot pot apparently does not use a flavored soup base. They just use water. And in fact, my friend, Jenny, who, if anyone's listened to Three Kitchens podcast in the past, she came on the podcast very briefly. She gave us like a voice memo a couple of years ago for our Chinese New Year episode when I made in my Instant Pot, I made a Chinese New Year cake. Remember that?
Yeah. I still think about that.
I know. It was so interesting, that cake. Go back and listen to that one. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And Jenny told us her experience growing up as a Chinese Canadian and her experience with Chinese New Year and some of the traditions and things that they do. She told me that she doesn't flavor her hot pot broth. She just uses water.
Okay.
And she says, the broth gets flavored as you cook in it. And I'm like, no, not enough for me.
I need something more, but thanks.
Okay, like non-Chinese person, whatever. But I was like, no, that doesn't sound enough flavor for me. I want the spicy broth, actually.
Yeah.
And so did my family.
Okay.
They were like, no, not just water. That doesn't sound good. I'm sure it's good. It's just, different, a different style. She also says that they always put in a melon. Is there a Chinese melon?
There is definitely something called Chinese melon.
Chinese melon. And she said it's an essential ingredient to flavor the water. And then they like to eat it too. But I am not a fan of most melon. Melon is not my thing.
It's a divisive item, I would say. You either like it or you don't.
And I couldn't imagine melon floating around in my broth. She's probably right. She's Chinese. She's grown up eating hot pot. She's probably right. But I was like, I think I'll skip it this time. Maybe another time I'll try it.
Now I'm going to keep an eye out because I've seen Chinese melon at the grocery store. And I feel like, if I'm remembering it right, you only get like a slice of it because it's like a huge... Is it like that really big? Is it again? Like, can we do a quick Google search? Because I feel like when I see it, it's possibly like this slice of melon. It's orange colored with maybe a very light, almost white rind.
Well, so what
am I
comes
describing anything that you're getting?
No. Okay. What comes up is a winter melon that is green on the outside and white on the inside.
Oh.
But there's another one that's yellow.
Okay.
It's a hammy melon. but winter melon comes up most here. And it's green on the outside and white on the inside. It looks kind of like a cucumber in the picture. I'm going to have to clarify with her what type of melon.
No kidding.
But anyway, that was one of her recommendations that I did not take. Anyway, I did use a mix. I think it's Lee Kum Kim. Does that sound? Yes, Lee Kum Kee.
Okay.
Lee Kum Kee brand.
Okay.
So it's like a little flavor package, like just like it looks like those gravy mix packages, except that it's moist. It's not
Oh, it's not dry. Okay.
And you mix that with, I think it was 1.5 liters of water, and you get it boiling, and that's your soup base. And then, of course, if you want, you can add other stuff into it. I threw in just a chunk of ginger and a little bit of garlic.
Yeah.
And that was our broth. We did the Szechuan, the spicy Szechuan. Okay, I bought 2.
Okay.
Let me tell you. Because I didn't know what would be good and I didn't know what my family would want. We mixed up both.
Oh.
And everybody came around and like smelled them and was like, one was seafood and one was Szechuan. The seafood got a resounding no thank you. Do not like the smell of that, wouldn't even taste it. I was like, okay, fair enough. So we went with the Szechuan spicy soup base. But
I'm not totally surprised by that because we are just not accustomed to eating seafood in general. So that flavor and that aroma profile do not resonate with us at all.
I suppose so.
I would guess. I think it's something that's like acquired that you develop a taste and a preference for. Like if you gave me something, I'd be like, sure, that tastes similar to every other seafood broth, right? Like I have no distinction.
Yeah. I feel like it would have tasted different than it smelled.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when you cook in it and then take the thing out and eat it, it's not going to be heavy seafood flavor.
I don't think so, yeah.
But that's okay.
Hey.
I bought 2 options for a reason so that we could see what we thought seemed better. Yeah. And I mean, my family tends to like spicy over pretty much anything else. So I was not surprised.
Right.
Okay. However, if you had that cute little split pot, you could do both.
Okay, Heather, buy the split pot now.
And you can borrow it and make it at your house. Or you can come over to my house and eat hot pot at my house. We could totally do that.
Perfect. Buy it, make it, all of the above. I'm just going to show up.
Because it's really good. All right. So some typical things you might cook in your broth are like thinly sliced meat, chicken, beef, lamb, pork, whatever you like, really. Seafood, obviously. You could even do fish. I worry that it would fall apart, but apparently you could. Noodles, dumplings, tofu, veggies, any kind of veggies you like. Fish balls. Remember those fish balls? Sarah fed us for something at some point.
It went in our ramen when we made some. Yeah.
They sound weird. They look kind of funny, but they're so good.
Delicious.
And I didn't go out of my way to find them. I wish I had because they were really tasty. Next time, I'm going to go and find those. I think you probably buy them frozen somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, I need to go back and listen to that episode so I know what I'm buying.
I imagine at TNT in the frozen section, they probably have fish balls.
I'm going to guess, yeah. But I want those ones because I know they were good. And I'll bet you there's probably like 50 different ones.
That's possible. Yeah. And mushrooms of all kinds.
Yes.
And then I read when I was researching hot pot that sometimes people like to serve with a bowl of rice.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the norm, but you could, when you take your whatever out of the pot, eat it with rice. much like you would at a Korean barbecue. You know, you have your bowl of rice, and as you cook things, you eat it with your rice. That would be really good too. Okay, sauce. So each person would have their little bowl of sauce to dip
Right.
your cooked food into. And of course, it could be anything. It could be like a dumpling sauce that you like. You could do, you could find hot pot sauce recipes.
Okay.
I did find a couple like a, I'm probably going to say this wrong, ching kiang vinegar, soy sauce, and sesame oil. You know, like just
Oh,
something that
yeah.
you kind of mix to your liking. I also had bought a bottle of teriyaki. I know it's not Chinese, and it doesn't go with hot pot, but I really like teriyaki sauce. And so I kind of mixed it. I added a little, like some chili oil and whatever in there with it, and kind of made up my own. We each made kind of our own what we wanted.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, a couple of notes. One pot typically serves about 6 people. So if you're planning to have a large table, then you might want to have 2 pots, like say you're doing a big dinner. As I said, it's not soup, so cook things kind of as you want to eat them.
Right.
I also was really conscious of like, okay, because we had some shrimp, just put shrimp in. Don't take anything out until, it's been boiling for 30 seconds or I don't know. I kept saying to the kids, give it a minute, just give it a few seconds here because someone just put shrimp in. I was
Right.
like very conscious of it being like that raw seafood going in.
Right. Yeah.
And I think if you had chicken, I would also be like, give the chicken a minute.
So do you have to let it like come back up? Because when you put food in, I'm assuming it stops boiling because of the food bringing the temperature down. And then sort of, is it ready as soon as it kind of boils again? Is that what you're
You just
kind of?
kind of gotta look at it. But yeah, I was very conscious of it. Like, let it boil, then I was kind of like, I was the person who was putting stuff in and taking stuff out. I was sort of
You were the
managing it.
manager.
And everyone would just put their bowl up and I would like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a whirlwind of fun here.
yeah,
Okay.
that was fun. Um, just because I was a little nervous about what
Right.
raw thing was going in with what,
That makes
know.
sense. Yeah.
maybe it's not that big a deal, but I also had a pair of tongs that I used for the raw meat. And then to put the meat in,
Yeah.
to take it out, we just used our chopsticks or have one of those kind of basket,
Oh,
it's like a
yes.
basket on a,
Yes. Did you do any noodles with yours?
we did. We did
Ah.
some those wide ramen noodles.
Oh,
They were so good.
yes. Yes.
They're like a little block, like it looks
Yeah.
like a little square, and we just put one in and then loosen it up. Kind of. I have one of those. It looks like this. It's a utensil for spaghetti.
Oh, yes.
You know the
It's
one?
got the claws.
Yeah, it's like a claw. It looks like.
Yeah.
And so I'd scoop the noodles out with that.
Nice.
We also did frozen dumplings. I did not make them. It was the big bag from Costco.
Of course.
Those things, because they're frozen, when you put them in, definitely lowers the temperature of the broth. And so I'm like, okay, wait for it to get boiling and then give those dumplings a couple minutes in there or however long. I don't know how long exactly, but
Right.
you can tell when they're done, right? So that's the basics of the hot pot. I will tell you what we put in our pot. We had this thinly sliced beef. If you go to an Asian supermarket,
Okay, yes.
the butcher counter, there's one, I can't think of the name of it, but it's just over on 16th and Center, close to us.
Yeah, yeah.
In behind there by Son's Barbecue, Son's Barbecue. Anyway, locals will know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Go to the meat counter at the Asian market and ask specifically for meat for hot pot.
Okay.
And you get this beautiful shaved, super thin
Right.
beef that has a good amount of fat in it because it's so thin and it cooks so quick. You want it to stay moist. Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
And you don't have to cut it yourself.
That was the question I was gonna say is did you go at your meat yourself? Because they were beautiful little rolls of okay.
Yeah, and I just did like they did at the restaurant and like put them in little rolls and put them on my plate.
Beautiful.
So delicious. And that beef is so good in a stir fry. The next day, when it was just the
Oh,
kids and I did like a beef and broccoli
yeah.
quick little stir fry, and it's so quick and it's so good. Delicious. Shrimp, as I said, we had some frozen shrimp. Broccoli, bok choy,
Ooh.
carrot, mushrooms. I had some frozen cubed butternut squash that
Yes.
I just put in that basket thing I was talking about. That I don't know what those things are called, but it's like a
It's like a mesh
basket on a
basket
handle.
on a
Yeah.
handle. Yeah.
And I put them in there because they're small and they're hard to fish back out. I put that and I just set it in and let them bubble away and then pulled it back out.
Oh, perfect.
Those were so good because they soaked up the broth, like the
Yeah.
spiciness of that broth was so good. I had little potato wedges that we kind of tossed in and left in there longer because they take a little longer.
See, that's where I bet
That
the
it.
Chinese melon makes the hot pot really good because it will soak up all that yummy flavor. And I mean, melon and squash are kind of on the same spectrum of fruits, vegetables. So I would bet that that's what you're going for when you're doing that.
Yes,
Got to try it, Heather.
perhaps. We'll see. And did I have anything else? I mentioned the ramen noodles. Yeah, it was just whatever veggies and meat you like. When we've been out to eat it, we had lamb, which was also shaved super thin, was delicious. But you could put in here whatever you like to cook in broth that doesn't take too long. Like the longest thing was the potatoes.
Okay, yeah.
The dumplings, that's a couple of minutes, whereas like the beef is so fast because it's so thin. You put it in, you kind of check that it's moving around a little bit so it's not just like a little
Cooked on the
clump.
outside and not on the
Yeah.
inside. Yeah.
Kind of move it around a bit and then take it back out because you don't want it overcooked.
Yeah.
So good. Delicious. Yeah.
This sounds really fun, even though it's a little bit maybe dangerous with kids, but giving them the opportunity to kind of pick what's going in, to see it cook, and then to pull it out again and have that, I don't know, kids try different things and try more things, I find, when they're the ones to like consciously make that choice or that decision, right? So I think this is a fun I oh, this is fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's not, I don't think it's hazardous.
Okay.
Like it's not,
I'm just picturing like the worst case scenario, right?
and just do like I did. Be the one to
But if
sit
you're
next
the
to the cord
boss,
and be the one to put the food in and out and kind of
yeah.
dish for everyone and take your time so that
Yeah.
you really are putting in what you're going to eat in the next few minutes. You've got a mushroom, you've got a bok choy, you've got a slice of beef, I've got a dumpling, whatever. Like we're not putting in like four things each or whatever, right? Like
Okay.
you're really managing it so that you put in one thing, it cooks, you take it out, you eat it. It's so good.
Right.
Now what do I want next? Like, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. It's very fun. I thought it was a bit of like a bit of work to prep all that stuff. You're not typically making a meal where you've got like 5 veggies that you have to cut and wash, and then, all that meat to roll up or whatever, like, and to
Right.
put everything in bowls and stuff so that it's nicely displayed and like accessible on the
Right.
table. It was a bit of work. The
It kind
broth
of makes me
itself,
think of your
super
smoothie
fast, but
bowl when you did those smoothie bowls and you were like, I've made it this whole spread. Okay, you guys eat, I'm done.
yeah, put whatever you want on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, there is that prep work,
Yeah,
and you end up with a lot of dishes.
of course. But what a fun way to do things. And it sounds much better than the bubbling oil of a fondue to cook things that splatters and messes. This sounds so nice.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And it's just a nice sort of celebratory meal. Like we had it over the holidays as a
Yeah,
way of kind of celebrating New Year, even though it wasn't on New Year's Eve, but it was close.
right.
And because we have some time. You have time during the day to like prep it, and you have time to sit and eat together, right?
Yeah. And that's the nice part, is just that communal sense of eating.
Yep. Go eat some hot pot. It looks like a lot of work, but it's very enjoyable, and everybody will love it. And the next day you can just make stir fry with all those ingredients that you have
I was
left
gonna
over.
say, anything that's left over, it makes great second day meal too. So, mm.
And happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And now for the fine print. Links to recipes and other things we talked about in this episode can be found in the show notes or on our website, www.threekitchenspodcast.com. Come say hello on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. We'd love to connect. And if you enjoy the show, pass it on. Word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about new podcasts. Thank you so much for listening.